All right, listeners, buckle up. We're diving deep today into the Monsta mindset. You know, those unstoppable athletes, legends like Mike Tyson, Michael Jordan, they just have that something extra,
Yeah.
And LPS athletics, they train those guys. They say this mindset isn't just for the elite. It's a philosophy anyone can tap into.
Exactly. It's not about being some kind of superhuman. It's a way of looking at challenges, any challenge, whatever your field is.
Okay, so what makes a Monsta then?
Mm.
I'm picturing like resilience, determination, that never quit attitude.
Yeah, you got it. It's grit, but it's more than that. It's like strategically using stress to your advantage, kind of like training a muscle.
Right.
You got to push it to grow it.
Okay, I'm starting to see the connection here. So how do we actually become monsters? Our source mentions two things, mental toughness and high-pressure training. How does that actually work?
Imagine you're in the gym lifting twice your body weight. It's intense, you're uncomfortable, but you push further. That's where the mental game is key. LPS, they teach you to know the difference
Right.
between actual fatigue and that voice of doubt.
So you're saying by pushing yourself in training, you're kind of prepping for those real-life pressures.
Exactly. But it's not about being miserable 24/7, right? LPS, they talk about dosed stress, like calculated bursts of pressure to trigger growth.
Right, like you wouldn't lift weights nonstop. This quote really stuck with me. It was from Wayne Moore, former CFL player. He said, everyone wants to be a monster until they see what real monsters do. What do you think he meant by that?
He's getting at the reality behind the highlight reel, the Monsta mindset. It's the daily grind, the setbacks, the constant dedication, falling down and getting back up even stronger.
So it's not in your genes.
Right.
It's about building that toughness.
Absolutely. Anyone can choose to develop it. Of course, natural talent plays a role, but it's that deliberate practice under pressure that separates the monsters from the rest.
Our source talks about Mike Tyson, Michael Jordan. I mean, icons, right? They embody this mindset. But how much of their success was really because of it?
Well, that's the fascinating part. Their early struggles may have actually fueled them. Tyson's tough upbringing, Jordan getting cut from his high school team, they turned those setbacks into motivation.
So it wasn't just natural talent. It was forged through experience. But what if we aren't facing those kind of extreme challenges? How do we build that same grit?
That's the key question, and that's what we'll dig into next. How can you, listener, apply these principles, even if you're not stepping into a boxing ring or a basketball court? What's interesting is this. The Monsta mindset can be adapted to anything you face. It's recognizing that stress, when approached strategically, can actually be your biggest advantage.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. How do you turn stress into a positive?
Think of it like this. Lifting weights, right? You're creating tiny tears in your muscles. Stressful, uncomfortable, but essential for growth. The Monsta mindset, it's that same principle, but for your mental and emotional resilience.
So facing things head on, even when they're stressful, that makes us stronger.
Exactly. And the key is to approach it with intention. Remember, dosed stress. Finding that sweet spot, pushing yourself enough to trigger growth without getting overwhelmed.
That makes sense. How do you actually do that? Find that balance between pushing and burning out.
LPS, they teach self-awareness, training athletes to tune in to their bodies and minds, to know the difference between fatigue and that voice of doubt that always creeps in.
So you identify those mental barriers and then find ways to push through.
You got it. And that's where mental fortitude training comes in. LPS, they use a bunch of techniques to help athletes develop focus, control emotions, stay calm under pressure.
Can you give us an example? What kind of mental exercises are we talking about?
One technique is visualization. Athletes create vivid mental images of themselves succeeding, even when things are tough. It builds confidence and a sense of control.
Like mental rehearsal.
Yeah.
Prepping your mind for the challenge.
Exactly. Another key element is positive self-talk, replacing negative thoughts with affirmations and beliefs. It's like rewiring your brain for success.
Wow, that's powerful. You can train your mind to be resilient, just like your body.
And the best part is, these techniques work for anything, not just athletics. That presentation you're dreading, that tough conversation, that ambitious goal, the same principles apply.
You said the Monsta mindset. It's not just about limits. It's about using stress to grow. Can you explain that a bit more? How does that work?
Think of a vaccine. You're exposed to a weak version of a virus. It triggers your immune system to build up antibodies. Stress, in the right doses, can work the same way.
So controlled bursts of stress actually build up our resilience for bigger challenges.
Exactly. It's like calluses on your hands. At first, friction is painful, but over time, your skin adapts, gets tougher. Same thing with our minds and emotions.
Great analogy. But I think a lot of people, they struggle with the idea of seeking out stress It seems like the opposite of self-care.
I get that. But the key is reframing our relationship with stress, recognizing its potential for growth. Think about Tyson and Jordan. They didn't avoid challenges. They embraced them, used those experiences to fuel their success.
So it's not avoiding stress altogether. It's choosing your battles and approaching them with the right mindset.
You got it. It's recognizing. Growth rarely happens in our comfort zones. We got to push ourselves, step outside the familiar, embrace the discomfort that comes with learning and growing.
How do we know when we're pushing enough, but not too much? Is there a formula for that?
No magic formula, unfortunately. It's self-discovery and experimenting, but listening to your body and mind, that's crucial.
What signs should we look for that we might be overdoing it?
If you're constantly overwhelmed, exhausted, burnt out, you might need to dial it back or take a break. But if you're feeling complacent and stagnant, maybe it's time to challenge yourself more.
It's all about finding that balance, being mindful of how we're responding to the challenge.
And remember, the Monsta mindset isn't about being perfect or never making mistakes. It's about the journey, learning from setbacks, and always striving to improve.
That's a great reminder. But let's be real. Not everyone's going to be the next Tyson or Jordan. How can the average person apply this to their everyday life?
That's the beauty of it. It's not just for elite athletes, it's for everyone. It's a philosophy that empowers anyone to overcome challenges, achieve their goals, no matter how big or small.
So how do we translate this? From pro sports to our own lives, what does a Monsta mindset look like for someone who's not training for the Olympics?
It starts with a shift in perspective, recognizing that we all face challenges, setbacks, doubts. The key is how we respond. Do those obstacles define us, or do we use them to grow stronger?
So choosing to see challenges as opportunities for growth, not threats to our well-being.
Exactly. Embracing the struggle, knowing that it's through those tough moments that we develop resilience, grit, determination.
That makes sense, but it's easier said than done. Right. How do we cultivate that mindset in a world that often tells us to avoid discomfort and take the easy path?
One powerful thing you can do, surround yourself with people who embody the Monsta mindset. Find mentors, coaches, friends who inspire you to push yourself, celebrate your successes, even the small ones.
So it's building a support system that encourages growth and resilience.
Absolutely. And setting clear goals, creating a plan to achieve them. The Monsta mindset thrives on purpose and direction.
I love that. Taking those big dreams, breaking them down into smaller steps.
Exactly. And setting realistic deadlines, holding yourself accountable, discipline and consistency are key.
That makes sense. But what about those times when we face setbacks, obstacles? How do we stay motivated then?
One strategy is to create a vision board or a journal. Track your progress, celebrate your successes.
A visual reminder of what you're working towards.
Yep.
And the progress you've already made.
Exactly. Surround yourself with positive affirmations too. Inspiring quotes that remind you of your strength.
Creating an environment that supports your goals, keeps you motivated, even when things get tough.
Precisely. And remember, it's not about being perfect, it's embracing the journey. Learning from mistakes. Always striving to improve.
That's so important. But I want to go back to something you said about the evolving definition of stress. Why is it so important to reframe our relationship with it?
Stress has been demonized for so long as something to avoid at all costs. But it's a natural part of life. It's what motivates us to take action, to grow.
So stress in the right doses can actually be positive.
Absolutely. Think about the excitement. Before a big presentation, the adrenaline rush of a challenge, those are forms of stress, but they can be motivating and energizing.
So not eliminating stress altogether, but learning to harness it to our advantage.
Exactly. Recognizing that stress is a signal, a message from our body and mind.
Powerful reframe. How do we actually do that? Shift from viewing stress as negative to embracing it for growth.
One of the most effective strategies is mindfulness.
What do you mean by mindfulness?
Paying attention to the present moment without judgment, noticing your thoughts, feelings, sensations without getting swept away by them.
So becoming more aware of how stress shows up in our bodies and minds.
Exactly. And once we're aware, we can develop healthier coping mechanisms.
Can you give us some examples?
Sure. Deep breathing exercises, meditation yoga, spending time in nature, creative activities, connecting with loved ones. Powerful ways to manage stress and cultivate well-being.
So finding what works for you, creating a toolkit of strategies.
Exactly. The Monsta mindset. It's not about being superhuman. It's about developing resilience to navigate challenges and emerge stronger.
This has been so insightful. I'm feeling inspired to embrace this mindset. Before we wrap up, I want to go back to setting goals and creating a plan. Can you give us some tips on how to do that effectively?
Absolutely. First step, identify your values, what's truly important to you. Your goals should align with your core
So
beliefs.
starting with self-awareness and purpose.
Exactly. Once you know what you want to achieve, break down your goals into smaller steps. Makes them feel less daunting.
Creating a roadmap for success.
Precisely. And set realistic deadlines. Hold yourself accountable. The Monsta mindset thrives on discipline.
That makes sense. But what about when we hit setbacks, obstacles? How do we stay focused?
Create a vision board or a journal. Track your progress. Celebrate wins.
A visual reminder of what you're working towards.
Exactly. And surround yourself with positive things, affirmations, quotes that remind you of your strength.
Creating an environment that supports your goals and keeps you motivated.
Precisely. Remember, it's not about perfection, it's about the journey. Learning from mistakes, always improving.
This has been so empowering. I'm feeling inspired to apply this to my own life. Before we wrap up, anything else you want to share with our listeners about how to cultivate this mindset and unlock their potential?
Remember this. The Monsta mindset, it's a journey, not a destination. It's continuous growth, self-discovery, resilience building.
Not about achieving some monster status, but embracing the process of becoming our best selves.
Exactly. It's recognizing that we all have the potential to achieve amazing things if we're willing to put in the work, embrace the challenges, and never give up.
This has been such an inspiring deep dive. I'm feeling so motivated to step outside my comfort zone and embrace the monster mindset.
I'm glad to hear that. The power to unlock your potential. It's within you. Embrace the challenge. Embrace the journey. Never stop striving to be your best self.
So listener, as we wrap up our deep dive into the monster mindset, I want to bring it back to you.
Yeah, how can you actually use this stuff? Starting today, it
Right.
doesn't have to be Olympic level training or anything. It's more about recognizing those everyday challenges and choosing how you're going to respond.
Exactly. We all have those moments, right? Setbacks, doubts, times when you just want to give up.
Right. But the Monsta mindset, it's like, it's reframing those moments. You see them not as defeats, but as chances to learn and to come back stronger.
Think about your own life right now. Is there something
Right.
you've been putting off, a goal that just feels too big?
Maybe it's finally starting that project or writing that book or having that tough conversation. Whatever it is, I challenge you to approach it with this new mindset.
Break it down into smaller pieces. Picture yourself succeeding. Use those mental tools we talked about. And remember, setbacks, they happen, but they don't define you.
It's all about getting back up, dusting yourself off, and using that experience to fuel your next try.
And the biggest takeaway here, you've got more potential than you think.
The Monsta mindset. It's about unlocking that by embracing those challenges, pushing your limits, and building that unshakable belief in yourself.
So go out there, listener. Unleash your inner monster. We can't wait to see what you accomplish.
Yeah.